Hi there! In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a Neo-Gothic design poster, using elements and composition with a futuristic style. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and leave a like. It will motivate me to create more tutorials of my creations. We're going to open Photoshop with a black background and a poster-like format. For this poster, I'm going to use elements and shapes I've created in Illustrator. I'm going to start copying and pasting this composition of shapes into Photoshop. These shapes are reminiscent of a technological, cyberpunk style. I'll use them to frame our main subject. To begin, I'll double-click on my layer to apply a color overlay filter and change its color to white. Then I'll duplicate this layer and right-click, Rasterize Layer, to pixelize my layer. Then with the Paint Bucket tool, I'll fill these areas in black. Use the Lasso Selection tool to remove the shapes on the right. Still using the same tool, I'll select one of my two shapes and press Ctrl+X to cut and paste it. I'll press Ctrl+V to copy my shape and directly create a new layer. As my creation will be symmetrical, I'm going to concentrate on one side first, which we'll duplicate later once I've finished. I'm going to drag my layer containing only the outline over my layers and position my shapes correctly. From here we'll import the image of our main subject, which will fit into our shapes by placing our image over the layer we want to fit. Then right-click to select, Create Clipping Mask, and position the image as required. We'll repeat the same operation for our second shape. We'll add a black and white effect layer that will drag under and over our image, which will have the effect of including it directly in our clipping mask. We'll adjust it and then copy and paste it into our other image. I'll select our two clipping masks, the image plus the black and white layer, and right-click to transform them into a smooth object. We'll add an image degradation effect that will add a little more dimension to our visual. This effect can be found in Filter, Stylize, and Wind. We can choose the direction of our effect. For this part of the image I want my degradation to be from left to right, so I'll select Direction from the left. You can accentuate the effect by adding several in succession. For my part, I'll add 3 to the first image and 2 to the one on the side. We're going to compose our visual a little more, and I'm going to add a tribal shape that I drew in Illustrator. I'll import it into Photoshop and position it. Once done, I'll double-click on this layer and add in Layer Style, the Stroke effect to add a white outline to my image, and Color Overlay to fill the shape with the color black. I'm going to duplicate this layer and reorganize my layers so that there's one shape at the top and another below my images. From here we'll work on the layer below, adding a mask using the icon at bottom right. And we'll erase and rework the excess shapes. From here, I'll speed up the video by simply importing several shapes from Illustrator and composing with them. Once our left side is complete, I'll select all my layers and group them into a single group. Then I'll duplicate my group and use the Ctrl+T shortcut to select and move my entire group. Then I'll right-click and select Flip Horizontal to reverse my selection. All that's left to do is reposition my group opposite the other one. I'll go back to my images in my new group and change the direction of my Wind effect to from the right for a symmetrical effect. We'll combine all our hulls into one group. Then I'm going to speed up the video, as I'm still going to import several shapes from Illustrator and compose with them in my visual. Let's move on to the poster's titling. We'll create a combination of two typefaces. First, we'll add a thin, white background. Then add a thicker, distorted one on top. We'll add the stroke effect to give it a white outline and place it on top of our first title. We'll duplicate our title in below and place it on top of the other two, reducing its transparency. Here we'll add a mask and use the brush tool to erase certain areas of our typography to give the impression that our two titles are intertwined. I'm going to speed up the video because I'm still going to import several shapes from Illustrator and compose with them in my visual. To add a realistic touch to our rendering, I'm going to add various textures to our image. If you're interested in free textures for creating your own visuals, I encourage you to take a look at my online store. The link is in the description. First, I'll add an aluminum texture and apply the blend mode, linear light, and reduce the fill option. This will add both the ripple and distortion of my texture but also the small details of my aluminum sheet. I'm going to add a second fabric-like texture and with blend mode, exclusion, and reduce the fill option. This will add a screen to our visual. I'll add a third texture that will add a little flaw and grain to our image. This is a napkin texture and I'll apply the blend mode, darken, to it. Having finished with our textures, I'll add a brightness and contrast effect layer to rework the luminosity of our rendering. Now we can move on to the final look and visual effects of our rendering. To do this, we'll select all our layers and convert them into a smart object. Don't forget our black background layer, otherwise the blend mode effects won't apply properly. I'm going to select my entire visual layer, copy and paste it and convert it into a smart filter. Then in Filter, I'm going to choose Camera Raw Filter. It's a great tool that lets you rework a lot of details in your image and make it even nicer. Here we have plenty of settings to configure our image. In Basic, we'll be able to adjust the intensity of our image. What we're really interested in here is the Effects tab. where we can configure the grain effect, which will texture and pixelate our image in the same way that a blur effect will texture it and make it a little more realistic. I recommend using this option to finalize your visuals. To refocus our image too, we can use the vignetting effect, which will create a black blur towards the center of our image and reinforce our rendering. And here's our final rendering. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the comments section. I'll be happy to answer or help. If you liked this video, please subscribe and leave a like. It will motivate me to create more tutorials of my creations. See you on the channel.